Right, so I'm hoping this is correct now. I actually had a take before this that I'm glad it wasn't recording properly because I think it was a bit too long. I'm gonna try and make this more concise. So I'm gonna speak about three topics today. 3 points, bullet points, as to why I decided to step away from the PC industry for the time being. Not permanently, but just for the time being. Um, and the first topic, right, is just going to be the fact that some vendors cannot right now, with budget constraints, resources, just stakeholders' demands, cannot give you an ideal product. And who am I speaking about? You guys know the story. It's motherboard vendors, first and foremost. RAM vendors, second most. Intel, AMD lost. AMD are probably suffering the least from this issue, but they are suffering too. When I say AMD, I don't mean RTG, I mean AMD. RTG are just, I don't know, they're cooked, man. Anyway, so, uh, yeah, motherboard vendors, you guys know the story. If they wanted to give you guys, or give us all, better QC PCB samples, stuff that's more reliable, stuff that doesn't have a bad RAM channel, stuff that whatever you want to say, for them to give us more functional, reliable boards like they used to, it would cost them more money. Now you guys are wondering, well, dude, okay, so there's a there's a strange tone I've been hearing in the community, especially from TechTubers. I just feel like they're a bit, I don't know, lacking perspective. I don't know. Parts right now are not actually being, well, some parts. I'm talking about like CPUs, motherboards, and RAM are not being overpriced compared to back in the day. It's not even inflation. What's happened is, guys, in the gaming industry over the last 10 or so years, these companies have accepted investment from a lot of finance heavy people. People don't care about this industry. And they expect profit margins to be at a certain level. They expect sales to be at a certain level. And when you don't deliver, they fire you, right? That's what happened to Intel's last CEO before Pat Gelsinger stepped on, right? They fire you. If they don't like your company or the way you're running the company and the direction of the company, they don't like it, you're gone, right? So the engineers and those actually running the show at the company need to abide by the rules set by the stakeholders, the main shareholders. That's just how it is. That's the sad truth of it. And unfortunately, what that means is you have to design a product that has a inherent profit margin because these stakeholders expect X amount of sales at X amount of margin, or just a big enough margin and like not that many sales, but just a big good margin. Whatever the way you want to go by it, like they want as much profit as possible and towards a certain level they set at the beginning of the year, right? So every year they have a target, and however you get the target, whether it's selling more items or selling less items at a higher margin, however you get that done, there's a goal to it. And when you're missing that goal, they are not pleased with you, right? And that's the issue. And these companies that we buy from are very afraid of these stakeholders. Why? Because they're afraid of being on the chopping block, right? They're afraid of losing their jobs. So when someone's job security is threatened, believe me, they will drop their morals and their whatever in a heartbeat. And that's what you see. Intel do not, like, they don't actually care when you're sad about your CPU with a horrible SP rating and a bad stock voltage. Why? Because for them to QC CPUs to a higher standard and have ensured you never to receive a sample like that, it would have cost them money because they would have had to sell less of your SKU and bin more down to the lower SKU, make less money on that part, and they can't do that. So Intel have a strategy. I've mentioned before. Basically, what they do is biggest die possible gets made on the wafer. The best silicon goes to the KS. The next best silicon goes to the i9 non-KS. The next goes to the i7. The next to i5, etc., 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 or down the chain, right? And every time you come to the lowest SKU, you cut a piece of silicon. You cut that bad piece of silicon gets disabled, deactivated, right? So that bad silicon, how they do it, I don't know how they do it. They fuse it, right? That bad silicon gets fused, and the chip becomes a 2-core list pot, right? That's how they do it. And then by doing that, you can actually have your silicon hitting the correct spec target. It's also why you see that the i7, i5 have lower like targeted boost speeds, because they actually have worse silicon, and that's just how it is. So, and that strategy has actually been very effective, because it allowed Intel since 12th gen to give us a lot of CPU for not a lot of money, and then give us some incredible specials, man. The distributors get crazy rebates. Amazon gets Newegg crazy rebates. Micro Center, man, dude, the CPU's MSRP for the first 3 weeks, if that, right? By month number 1 passes, like one month has elapsed, 2 months elapsed, bro, you best expect there to be 10, 15, 20% off specials. Crazy. Intel are making like no money, because they're selling their chips super cheap. I'm pretty sure actually. I think they've actually been losing money over the last few years, but they're trying to gain a market share. And imagine they had to sell CPUs with better QC, better IMC minimum cap, right? Let's say every IMC had to be a certain level of quality, and they up the minimum, or they raise the minimum clock speeds that a certain SKUs would hit. No way. Like, what they're giving us right now is like what they're giving us. It's like it's all they can give us. They have nothing more to give us. And unfortunately, it's a good product, but it's just not good enough, in my opinion. It's sad. It's just not sad on their part, like, oh, it's a pathetic. No, I mean, like, it's sad because Intel tried really hard to give us this beautiful architecture with the equals, and it's so well thought out. The ideas sound, the IMC is so interesting. It's an interesting architecture. It's an interesting design. It's a very cool product, but it's just so sad that in practice, and Intel, if Intel is watching this, they know what I'm talking about, and it's like, in practicality, this part, can't run certain workloads unless you have a certain level of cooling, which often entails having a absurd amount of reserve water. So a large reservoir, a crazy large reservoir, to have that lower, the lower average temperature, liquid temperature. So you have, appreciably lower running temps, when you're running a load. And to get that done, chillers have been leveraged. Massive, like, dual Mora setups have been leveraged. Direct die, liquid metal, for the actual heat transfer to be more efficient. It's just sad, man. Like, techs have been used. It's just like, for the customer to get what they want out of the CPU, to be able to run Prom 95, no worries. No worry about degradation. To run the clocks you want to see. You just need to invest so much money and assemble something so impractical that it's like, it's just a really strange spot to be in. That, if you want to have that nice maxed out Intel setup, you just have to go to the links. These links that just, it's just, oh man, like, it's too far, dude. This is way too far, That's the sad truth of it. AMD's problem right now is that they're in this weird spot where their non-3D stuff just has this issue with gaming where it just doesn't. It's just something about it, man. It just doesn't really run, snappy with gaming. It's not bad. I gamed on it for like a few months, right? It's not bad. It's just that you notice when you're at those lower resolutions, it's not pushing those frames. It's kind of, you're seeing that the GPU utilization drop a little bit. The 4080, 4090, they're sitting in the 80s, 70s, 60s even. It's not pushing those frames up. It just cannot draw them. So AMD's non-3D chips are just, for gaming, they're rough. And they're decent CPUs, if you get them for a good deal on a budget, you're buying on a budget. It's okay, but they're just not great products. 3D chips are really good when they're working properly. So in their correct application. So the appropriate application for the 8-core 3D chip, right, is just gaming. You can't stream, you can't render, you can't download games or playing other games. You can't do anything else. You just can game. That's all you can do. Just a gaming CPU. You're just gaming. Okay, fair enough. Some guys just game. Well, that's hamstrung, right? And the target audience is just so much lower than if it was, capable of rendering. And it can render, but it's just like not really. Like, you want to have a 16 core if you want to make YouTube videos, right? So that's how it is, and that's facts. No one wants to make YouTube videos on 8 core, right? So that's just how it is. The 16 core is not like that badly priced. It's not like crazy expensive. The problem with it is it doesn't always work properly. That's the issue. And you have to jump through hoops to get it running properly. It sucks that like, oh, the CPU can't allocate the workload correctly. It's just stupid, man. It's like, it's frustrating. Same thing with Intel. It's like Intel like these scenarios where it's like frustrating how good their product is. The pricing is really good. The pricing is great. The product is great. The design is great. Everything is cool. It's all innovative and stuff. It's great. The problem is that it's just not complete. It's like there's something missing. It's just not. It's not like there's no cherry on top. It's good, but like there's an asterisk, right? And that's the problem. And it feels like you're not getting your money's worth. It just feels like there's something missing always. There's always something missing. That just never used to feel, right? RAM, the same thing, man. RAM vendors can't QC their kits to the moon. They can't have 1,000 employees swapping out your kit between like 10, 20 different setups to try and see if this kit works on a variety of platforms. They just can't do it. So you have this situation where some RAM kits just suck and can't run XMP, and it's just weird, man. This weird spot in this industry. And that's the first point. It's like some parts just don't deliver, It's disappointing, right? Board vendors too, man. Board vendors, like I said in the beginning, like, if they wanted to give you something that was like whole, it would need to cost you more money. And you're thinking, well, it's expensive already. The problem is their margins must be a certain place, right? So they have to make a certain margin. They need to. And that means for them to actually give you more product, it's going to have to jack up prices even further. And prices are already at a point where people are like fuming. They're furious. They're like this pricing on boards right now is crazy. It is. But the truth is that that's what they cost, and some of them aren't even good. So next point is the GPU scene. The GPU scene to me right now, if I could summarize it, or sum it up in one word, I would probably say joke. Joke would be a good word. Why joke? Because AMD, or more accurately, RTG, are pricing their cards around Nvidia's prices, not competing with Nvidia, not trying to compete with Nvidia. Nvidia's stuff is just totally out of the realms of sense. Nvidia, honestly, guys, if you guys have seen the stock price, like, have you seen the stock price? They're not being driven by gaming investors or people that care about pixels on the screen, right? Their whole modus operandi right now is AI. It's just building the next Nvidia robot that, is 1.75 meters tall, looks like a human, and has functional AI, and that's what people are investing in. They want to see their stock prices soar through the roof once Nvidia make a breakthrough with AI, where there's some revolutionary AI. That's what they want. Nvidia themselves, to make this AI tech, are using the same engineers that used to make your gaming stuff, right? Nvidia I don't think they hired different people, right? Nvidia changed their research direction, right? So the people who are making what they've always been making, Nvidia just decided, you know what? Let's try this. Let's try and do that. Let's try and apply this technology. Let's try this. And literally, their engineers no longer make gaming hardware. They make good hardware that happens to game fine. That's literally what it is. They literally make hardware directed at workstation users and power users and people that render things and do simulations. And leverage high level AI, stuff that the chips in Teslas, for example. They don't actually care about the gamers at all, and I don't think they want to make gaming hardware anymore, because I don't think they, honestly, I think that the reason why the pricing right now is so bad is because there's no reason for them to actually give you a good deal. Because they don't actually care if you buy this stuff or not. That's the key. People are wondering why are Nvidia pricing stuff so weirdly. It's because they actually don't care about you buying their game. Understand what I'm saying? They do not care about you. Like, if you don't buy their card, they literally could not care less. It's like, okay, cool. Too bad. Oh, no one bought the 4090? Oh, that sucks. So, too bad. Like, it's like, Nvidia have no reason to stop, no reason to sell you a card. It's why they had their 3 series inventory piled up in warehouses and refused to do clearance sales. They refused. They were like, no, we're not going to compromise our MSRPs and compromise our reputation with, and compromise the standard of pricing we have right now. We're just going to sell less stuff to gamers because who cares? Nvidia, the same company that decided to put a new flawed connector on the card that was done literally because they knew having 4 8-pins in a card was going to screw up marketing. That's why. Okay? The 4 8-pin connectors were going to screw up marketing. And they're not wrong. It probably would have put a lot of people off buying some of the GPUs. And they were like, we have to get this power in the card somehow. How? Okay. This one tiny connector that if it wiggles a bit, voltage drop on the same spins, screen freezes, black screens, crash the desktop, PC restarts, and in the worst cases, when the VBIOS doesn't detect the voltage drop and it actually doesn't shut down and you're still gaming, fire. So yeah, that's literally what happens. And that can happen when you pick the computer up, put it down, that vibration that goes through the computer, that minute amount of shake, that kind of force that goes through all components, that can wiggle that connector loose just enough to where you get the crashes and stuff. And you're like, what? Like, why is it crashing? Like, it's a card. I was on forums, man, for so long trying to figure this shit out, and it was like. And the funny thing is, some connectors from some vendors, the GameRock, for example, I had a really tight 12-pin slot, a 16-pin slot. The MSI Supreme had like a medium difficulty one. The tough I had was like butter. It was like in out. It was like there's no rigidity there. So it's so easy to. Or it might even be the adapter. The adapters themselves might have QC tolerance where literally like some adapters seat well and some just don't seat well. Like where they're just way too loose in the slot. And that Nvidia knew about this, man. They knew this could happen, and they just didn't care. And that's my problem with them. They just didn't care. And that bleeds into my next point. Is like, just as Nvidia don't care about you, neither do game devs. Valve don't care about you. They don't care that the CS skins right now are ridiculously priced. They limited their supply. They were the ones that killed off certain cases, right? They killed off cases. They killed off the certain accounts that could get certain case drops. So they basically cut off an entire like cycle in their skin releases. Like at a certain point, it just got cut off, and like you can't drop anything that has any of those items from yesteryear. Like you just can't. So literally all those items become worth gold because the case applies whatever it is, and the cases now are crazy expensive, which never used to be the case. You still can't trade, which is absurd to me. No one can afford skins, man. Valve don't care because every single sale they make in the market is 15% in their pocket, right? And that's bolstered when the skin prices are on average higher. So Valve don't care about the state of CSGO or the economy. They just care about the money. They don't care about you. Neither do Activision. Activision same way. Don't care about the customers. The cheating in COD is crazy. The game sucks. The single player sucks. It's too short as well. The maps are terrible. There's no innovation. They refuse to listen to the gamers. I don't understand. CDL was an absolute disgrace. Spat in the face of anyone that ever wanted to go pro that don't live in America. Just that's the only way to look at it. I don't know, man. And every other AAA game that releases for $60 to $100 retail is trash. So to me, guys, the gaming industry right now just doesn't seem like a good value, right? It just doesn't seem like there's much to invest in. It just feels like we need to start respecting ourselves and learning that until we actually, vote with our wallets and, decide, listen, this relationship where I'm paying you X amount of money for anything at all, and you're going to give me whatever you want to give me. That needs to end. Okay, we don't have an obligation to pay them for stuff, right? So, and paired with that, I have to go work next year. The work I enlisted for, I'll talk about it some other time. I'm not going to be at home, and I might move. I might actually move overseas, maybe, if another job development works out. Because I want to move to the UAE. Actually, I want to move to the UAE. My mom is, and like try out life there and see how it is. So I that's part of why I sold my stuff, because it was like it didn't make sense to have a computer. With how bad the community is right now, the industry is right now. It didn't make sense to have a computer when I'm potentially leaving soon, or at the very latest next year. I'm not going to be at home, and also just the load shedding in our country right now. We were at we've been in like stage 6 many times for many months now, where you have like no power for like 10 hours a day. So it's like having a PC for me right now just didn't make sense, guys. That's why I stopped making videos. That's why I sold the computer. It's not because I'm quitting PCs forever and never gonna. No, I'm gonna come back, of course, when the time is right, right? And right now, just the time is not right. So it made sense to sell everything and find a new hobby, which is what I'm gonna get into, in my next video. So yeah,